Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? How are you, Luke?
Matt, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Always our pleasure, man. There's a lot of directions I want to go, but I want to start here. The Saints have roughly $10 million in cap space. Sean Payton often talks about like wants and musts. What right now, with one preseason game to go and $10 million to spend, should they choose to spend it, what would you label right now for this team are musts?
Well, I'm glad you clarified there and said right now, because I feel like the needs are like constantly changing with this team.
Right.
So if you would have asked me this a week ago and asked me if I would have said tight end is a want or a need, I would have said you were crazy. I thought they were pretty set at the position. And then the next thing you know, I'm out there on a practice 2 days after a game, and they literally have two guys out there in the tight end group. I think that's just kind of the nature of things right now is you're starting to see teams with guys kind of falling, going on injured reserve, and it's kind of changing the needs a little bit. So I think still, if you're looking at this, I would like to address the corner position. I just think there's a little bit too much uncertainty with Marshawn Lattimore's legal situation and not knowing which direction that's going to turn. And I think they've been pleased with how Paulson Adebo and Ken Crawley have done in practice. I certainly have been. I think both guys have surpassed my expectations. But you're putting yourself on awfully thin ice if you're relying on both of those guys to be there in the event Marshawn Lattimore goes down. And if either Adebo or Crawley gets injured or falters or whatever, you're on really, really thin ice. So I'd still like to see him do something at that position. I don't know what can be done. I think at this point, the best options are probably going to be trades, and I don't know how much you're willing to give up for that. But I still think that's a position they have to keep looking to bring people in. And frankly, a defensive tackle. I thought they were set up pretty nicely there, and then we get word yesterday that Jalen Dalton's going on injured reserve and he's not going to be there. I think that guy was going to be a stud for him this year. He's going to play a lot of football, and then all of a sudden he's not there. And I think that went from being something they were pretty comfortable with to probably something where they're going to look to add a body or two.
So do you think – and so cornerback and defensive tackle seem to be those two spots. Do you think that's a spot where they are exploring trades, or are there – right. Or are there free agent options out there that they could pursue?
I'm going to assume I heard most of that question before my dog started losing his mind.
Dogs are awesome, man. That's just real life.
Yeah. I was really hoping I was going to make it through an entire segment without that being an issue. Okay, so I think the really good thing is, the interesting thing about this year is that the cut down day with kind of a little bit more time between that and the start of the regular season. I think they're going to have some options. If they're looking at teams putting their 53 together and they see all these guys who get cut and they don't really like their options there, I think they're going to be able to say, okay, we're not going to be able to solve this way. We're going to have to start working the phones to try to figure out the best way to get their roster where it needs to be. So I think that adds a little bit of an interesting wrinkle this year that hasn't really been there in years past. So if I were to kind of handicap it, I would say that the most likely scenario is that the 53-man roster cuts happen. The Saints kind of scour those. They do a really good job every year. Their personnel are very much on top of that, and finding guys I think will fit and plugging them in. I think that's probably the most likely scenario is they address their roster that way. But they have time after that happens to make a trade and get their 53 where it needs to be before week 1 against Green Bay.
Luke Johnson is with us on Twitter at @ByLukeJohnson from the New Orleans Advocate. Are you under the assumption, like most are, that Jameis locked it up on Monday?
Yeah, I think so. I think I think when a lot of us were talking about how close the quarterback competition has been throughout training camp, I think the general consensus was that all of us who are out there watching it every day just didn't see anybody pull away. But at the same time, if you would have asked us, gun to our head, who the Saints quarterback was going to be in week one, I think pretty much at any time throughout that camp, we would have, it's probably going to be Jameis. And then I think in the last 2 or 3 practices before they played the game, I thought you started to see Jameis pull away a little bit. And then, Monday was everything you wanted to see out of him, right? Like, he was confident. He was throwing the ball downfield. He was throwing the ball in rhythm. He wasn't hanging on to the ball, which is something that both him and Taysom have done, both in practice and in the first preseason game. I think that was, you saw the potential for what the Saints offense can be with Jameis there. And Taysom just picked a really, really bad time to, I think, have probably one of his worst performances as a quarterback in training camp. We try not to be prisoners in the moment. You try to look at it with the entire training camp at your fingertips. But I think that moment was really important, and I think Jameis did what he had to do to lock it up. So yeah, I'd be very, very surprised if there's a universe that exists out there where Taysom is the starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints in week one.
So then what do you make, obviously covering the Saints and covering Sean Payton, what do you make of Taysom Hill getting first-team reps on Tuesday and there still not being an announcement?
Yeah, I think the most surprising thing was when Peter King came out and said that Sean Payton told me he wants to have a starting quarterback named by Saturday's preseason game. The guy does every single turn since I've covered him. He's done everything in his power to keep stuff like that under wraps. Frankly, I'd be more surprised if we hear anything about it, or if he even gives us any signs that he's set on a guy before week one, because he doesn't want to give Green Bay the full advantage of preparing for nothing but Jameis Winston as quarterback and Taysom Hill as Swiss Army knife guy. So I didn't really make a lot of it. I still think that they're probably just sticking to their plan they've had in place forever, where they're switching out guys. Taysom takes one day, Jason takes the next, or Jameis takes the next. And,
We've all done it.
Really hard. Look, it's like the first slip I've had in like 3 weeks.
Wow, the first one in 3 weeks.
Took me this long to finally get there. But yeah, Jameis, not Jason.
Or Tamus.
I really hope this is not going to be a thing throughout the entire season.
It will be.
Where I'm just like constantly on guard.
No, it'll be a thing throughout the whole season. We'll all be doing it all year. So are you settled then with the Saints at receiver? Because that was another big, giant question mark coming into this training camp that I think a lot of people, even sans Michael Thomas, feel okay right now.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were having this sort of lack of confidence in that, because they were looking at Marquez Callaway as we knew him before this year's training camp, and he just absolutely blew up on everybody. He looks like a superstar right now. So I think I had a lot of confidence in Marquez Callaway. I absolutely did not see this coming. And I think the guys they've had behind him have been good enough that they can just kind of weather the storm a little bit for however long they're going to be without Michael Thomas. However long Deontay Harris might have to miss for his off-season arrest. Yeah, I think between Marquez Callaway, if Traquan Smith ever gets healthy, Traquan Smith is number 2 or number 3. Deontay Harris, he's still going to be out there for a minimum 15 games, I'd imagine, as long as he's healthy. I think he's had a really just outstanding training camp. Like that guy, there's nobody who can guard that guy one-on-one. And you just fill in the rest with a really healthy dose of Alvin Kamara. Juwan Johnson, I think, is ready to break out as just a receiving threat at tight end. He looks like a younger Jared Cook. And you fill in the rest with Ty Montgomery, Chris Hogan, Lil Jordan Humphrey, whoever out of those guys makes the team. I think they're going to be okay. They're not maybe as deep 1 through 5 you really want them to be, but I think they're good enough until Michael Thomas gets back.
All right, Luke, I got two more things that we could do them as quickly or as you can go as deep as you wanted to them. Number one, assuming Jameis is the starter and Taysom goes back to his slash role, he lost a significant amount of weight for this quarterback competition. Are we all convinced that he physically is going to be able to reassume that role?
I think it's just going to have to look different. I don't think we're going to see him as an inline tight end. And I think there's going to be probably a lot more risk with him as your read option quarterback power runner than there was in the past. Yeah, Taysom is out here saying that he didn't really lose that much weight, and I really don't believe him. From an upper body standpoint, especially, he looks very thin compared to what he did the last couple of years. I think there's probably going to have to be like a little period where he bulks back up a little bit. But the thing is, he's still got tree trunks for legs. I think he's going to be able to hold up to it, but I just think it's going to have to change a little bit while he gets his body back to where it was, if that's indeed what he wants to do.
No, that makes sense. All right, last thing. Anything else in this camp that has, if you had to say, man, what's the biggest surprise? Like the thing that has gone the way it has that you did not anticipate? What would you say it is so far?
I don't know how big of a difference this is going to make because they have Quan Alexander and Demario Davis there. You have both guys who've played a lot of football. We know who they are. But their linebacker room is so deep right now, and I think it's a lot deeper than we were anticipating. Pete Werner has barely even been out there for training camp, and I don't think anybody's really noticed too much because Zach Bond's been playing great football. Andrew Dowell has been really surprising. I think both Caden Ellis and Chase Hansen have gotten better since last year. And really legitimately, you're looking at like 7 guys on that team who can really play. And even if, I think if you would have told me in June, prepare for a nightmare scenario, Demario Davis goes out, how confident are you in the Saints defense? And I thought it would have been like a complete game wrecker for him. And I'm not so sure that's the case anymore. Obviously, Demario is a really, really good football player, and losing him would be, a cause for distress among the Saints fan base. But I think they're a lot better equipped right now to handle an injury to somebody like Quan Alexander or Demario, or just to even weave some of those guys in and out and give those breathers. A really, really pleasant surprise with how that group has looked in camp.
He is Luke Johnson on Twitter at @ByLukeJohnson. There of the New Orleans Advocate. Make sure you're reading his stuff. We appreciate it, man. Thanks for a couple of minutes as always.
Hey, it's always a pleasure, Matt. Talk to you soon.
Oh, man, be well. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.